Welcome back to the mid-season invitational. And as you can see there, Steel Series, you can head over to steelseries.com right now and get 20% off with code SMITE20. So head over there and get yourself some nice Steel Series gear. But for now, it's time to turn our attention more towards MSI. Set 1 is already down. The #1 team in the SPL is already out. And now we get to see what happens between Splyce and eUnited. Joining me on the desk will be the one, the only, Anatoly Alexeyevich. How you doing?
Really good after that last set.
A good warm-up, right?
An SML team, who would have thought? It happened in the Paladins Premier League where Penta won it all. Can this be the run for Armada? But we have to see about both of these SPL teams.
And
first.
I'm annoyed about that, Tolly, because I feel like Paladins stole my thunder of the script. They read it, they gave the team, the minor league team, the win. It can't happen in Smite 2, can it?
It very well could if Armada play like that, catching everybody off guard. Snoopy had a fantastic performance.
He did. Well, that's enough about Armada, because Armada is still going to be involved in this technically, because they will face off the winner of this set between Splyce and eUnited. And the first team for us to talk about definitely is going to be Splyce, who've made a lot of changes this year from the roster that won the World Championships just a few months ago.
That's right. Now it's Baskin in that solo lane, also Screammmmm in the jungle position, Venenu in mid, swapping a couple players around. I think the key focus player is going to be Baskin in that solo lane up against Benji. It's a very interesting matchup. These two players specifically have faced off against each other 62 times throughout their career. Baskin winning 40 of those games, about 65%.
65% win ratio? I didn't know that for Baskin versus Benji. That's definitely interesting for me. Now, Baskin was a member, funny enough, of that Armada team that we saw earlier on this year too. But Baskin's definitely been a talked about player for a very long time, Anatoly. Why and what is it that he brings that so many people favor?
He can do early game, he can do mid game, late game. It doesn't really matter. He can take a losing matchup and turn it on its head. You can't really deny him farm because he'll just kind of drag the water out of the cactus wherever he can find it. So Baskin is one of these players that'll make the comebacks even when behind.
There's definitely a talking point though with Baskin and the fact that at big tournaments, at World Championships and such, he's failed to find the form that we've seen out of him through the regular season. Do you think that could be an issue for Splyce and Baskin here today?
I don't think so, because in Season 3 and Season 4, that was when he was transitioning into the mid role, so that was just a rough transition. I think that his true natural position is in that solo lane, and that's where his strength lies. He needs to rely on it today.
And we'll get to see exactly how Baskin plays out here. Obviously, the rest of this squad has made changes as well. The only two remnants of the World Championship team of Splyce is that dual lane of Aror and CycloneSpin. But now, with the fact they've got Screammmmm and Venenu, formerly for themselves as well, they've been pretty good performances over the years too.
It seems that the synergy is clicking for sure. Venenu, the Season 4 MVP, with Screammmmm as well being his jungler. So even though that those four players haven't had a championship together in separate years, the North Americans now collectively together.
It's funny because it brings back the whole conversation again. If Baskin hasn't won a World Championship, but the other four members of his team have, maybe this is a chance for the MSI victory, though, especially with Rival just being eliminated. It makes it a little bit easier here for Splyce to maybe find their way to the final. Let's find out, though, how Splyce feel about their fight today.
Thanks, guys. I've got Baskin with me here from Splyce. Baskin, we got to start with what we just watched, right? You've been saying Meerkat's been dominant forever on Twitter. Are you surprised at all by what you saw?
No, I mean, it was a best of 3, so obviously there was some chance that Rival could have upset Armada, but I thought it was a pretty low chance. You know, I've teamed with Meerkat before, and you know, I just had to leave that team because it'd kind of be unfair to the rest of the league. So I knew they were gonna pull it out.
Two GOATs, same squad, can't be doing that. You know, it's just not fair. Yeah, another super team. We don't like those around here. We're no Golden State Warriors. Let's talk about your set, though. I mean, after a set like that where the bottom seed does end up getting the win, does it kind of refocus you like, okay, we really have to be locked in even though we've been playing well coming into this?
Yeah, especially versus eUnited, because our set versus eUnited, we definitely should have lost one of the games, Game 3, where we got super far behind, and the other two games were actually really close. So, yeah, we're definitely not going to underestimate them or anything. Yeah, it just should be a good set.
Do you feel the meta shifting at all from what you've seen the first 2 days? I mean, there's still been the kind of frenzy objective play that you guys like, but some picks are getting a little bit weird. Do you think that you guys have adjusted your game plan at all?
No, I wouldn't say we adjusted our game plan. I think it's not really the meta changing. I think every team is just bringing something a little bit different to every game. Obviously, Armada just was spamming early pressure, but I think every single team has a kind of a different game plan. So I don't think it's necessarily changing. I think just as we see more teams play, we're going to see more metas develop, kind of.
All right, Baskin, looking forward to it. Have a great set. We'll throw it back to you guys on the desk.
Was Baskin joined by Aggro there to talk a little bit about Splyce today. They're not planning on making any changes based off what they've seen so far. And I think the good talking point about the meta discussion there. Generally at LAN, Solly, we always do see some sort of LAN meta get established and then come to fruition by finals.
It definitely has been the case so far with the best of fives. In the best of three, you have less time to do it, but now it's time for experimentation. Not experimentation, but just the curveballs that you've been preparing for to throw your enemy for a loop. We saw what Armada did up against Rival. The question is, can eUnited throw a curveball at Splyce? Because they did lose that set against Splyce 0-3.
0-3 as well, and that's a big talking point on that. The fact that it took all 3 games straight in a row with best of 5 situation. But here, it's only a best of 3. Now, Baskin did touch on that technically with only best of 3s, it's a little bit easier to maybe find a 2-0 here. Well, eUnited, though, they are getting themselves prepared, and we should move our attention towards this team because, well, it's been an interesting year for this eUnited team. I think a lot of people have let them just slowly fly under the radar as a dark horse.
They started off really hot. They beat the 4 bottom teams in the SPL, and that was enough to qualify to the SPL, but they still managed to close out relatively well by finding the win over Renegades, also against Dignitas. Yeah. That was an impressive victory. That is good momentum going into this set, but that loss against Splyce, what have they done to falter that mistake?
I'm speaking a little bit about eUnited some more here. I'm interested in basically the core of this eUnited team. BigManTingz, iceicebaby, and Callus. Now, iceicebaby and Callus have played together for a long time on the old Rival roster of days gone by. They've got to 2 finals of the World Championship before. But how has BMT managed to fit into this little trio?
He's been a great addition, honestly, from his start in Season 3 with Fnatic all the way till now. He has a very flexible god pool. I think in the 35 games that they've played, BigManTingz has played something between 13 to 15 different gods in that lane.
So he's quite flexible as well, and that's something you're looking for in a mid laner too. I'm definitely interested to see how the start of this game goes off with both these teams seems to have very similar projections in terms of their picks and bans mentality, correct?
Some of them. I don't think that Hunters are going to differ too much, but every other role is going to change quite fast. I think that Aror and Callus, outside of the Fafnir and the Terra, they don't really have the same style, where Auror's going to play the Hercules a lot. We might see some Capri from Callus from time to time.
The only thing I'm interested in is, well, BigManTingz here. Do you reckon he's going to play many of the Hunters? Because we've seen a lot of more Hunters towards the middle area here. Now, emilitoo in the dual lane is definitely someone that can favour the magical Chronos specifically if it's available to him. So would that mean that we maybe see BMT play some more Hunters?
If the Muzen Cobb is available. Otherwise, I'm expecting him to stick to his traditional mages. He's had the most played gods on the Ryzen in the first phase.
Well, speaking about BigManTingz, he's standing by with Aggro now for an interview.
I've got BigManTingz, the mid laner here for eUnited. Tings, you guys just played against Splyce pretty recently, and despite it being a 3-0, a lot of those games pretty close. The one, obviously, a huge lead for you guys. Does even losing 3-0, but in that sort of fashion where every game was kind of close, give you some degree of confidence coming into this one?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like on the day we just weren't able to play to the best of our ability, and we ended up throwing mainly that game 3, which was very shocking to the system, I'd say, at the time. But yeah, we knew what mistakes we made, and we worked on them within the weeks of scrims we had. So hopefully it won't happen again.
I mean, the last set was so revolved around early pressure, but a lot of the games so far here at MSI have kind of been revolved around that. You guys have that potential. That's what you did against Splyce, that game 3, but also you have some slower game plans. Which do you think is kind of more advantageous to you guys in the meta right now?
I feel like it kind of just depends on what we draft. I mean, the meta has, late game FG fights and early game pressure, so we've kind of played both throughout our time in this split, and we'll just have to see what we whip out today.
A lot of hype around you in particular. A lot of people saying that you're a rising star in the mid lane. Do you feel like that something extra has clicked for you this year, or it's just with these guys surrounding you, you've been able to step up?
I feel like I've always been a confident player myself, but I mean, this year I've got really great players around me, so they just enable me and let me play what I want to play and how I want to play, and it seems to be working out so far.
Working out so far. Hopefully it works out against Splyce as well. Good luck, man, in the set. We'll throw it back to you guys on the desk.
Thanks so much. That was Aggro with BigManTingz, the mid laner from eUnited. I think a lot of the teams here today may be a little bit shell-shocked with how the start of today has begun. And I think that's why a lot of them are going to be a little bit more composed going into this set with a point to prove, with a real opportunity now with the #1 team being taken out.
That's very true. With Rival out of the equation, that this set becomes the important one because it'll be easier for them, like on paper, to make it to the finals for whoever wins this one up against Armada, but you can never count out Armada after that last set. So you got to take it one set at a time, one game at a time in this best of 3.
And we'll see exactly how this one plays out between the two, because picks and bans will be really momentarily as those guys get themselves set up. I think we'll see AMC bans more than likely here.
From the second pick, probably. I don't expect that to be left open. It just has so much pushing power to the point where you're losing so many buffs. We've seen what happened when you're losing the buffs in the last set. It wasn't because of the Muzen card, because that one was stripped away, but it was just about the sheer early pressure between the double blinks.
Well, so far in this tournament, boys and girls, the main thing we've really seen has the rise of Guan Yu and Set are the two gods that are definitely the ones that are sticking out in my mind. It's not necessarily surprise for the audience at home to see those get played, but they are getting a bit of better play than we expected, I feel.
I'm not sure if that's going to be translated to the rest of the SPL teams. That might have been just an Armada special that they brought out, that they prepared in their games. If anything, it's revealing it in that set, which they definitely needed to do, is going to have it banned from them in the rest of this tournament.
Well, if you're banning Guan Yu, I'm okay with that, because it means there's going to be other things available. Splice, though. There's Kabom on your screen with his little notebook to keep track of what the plan's going to be here. So far, it's Ratatoska and Merlin taken away, so a shot towards BigManTingz and towards that man on your screen there, iceicebaby. eUnited, though, take away Freya. Chronos is available currently, and I'm pretty sure it could be something that gets left open here, because I think both teams would value it.
Chronos, Merlin, and Muzen, Naja, those are the 4 probably go-to candidate first picks for Splyce. I'm probably leaning more towards the Jormungandr for Baskin to be able to really control that matchup and make these world rotations.
Two-time world champion on your screen there, emilitoo from the Hunter position. Brand new team from this year, and that old energy roster that we see perform so well over the years. They've all gone their separate ways now and trying to prove a point. Most of them still in the tournament so far. And we'll see how they go here as the boys of eUnited really take their time with this next ban. You'd think at this moment they're really trying to work out what Splyce's game plan is, or is it more to do with what they're going to get as the 2 picks in response?
It's whatever they really don't want to deal with. Do they really not want to deal with the Muzen Cob, or do they really not want to deal with the Jormungandr? Maybe leave the Chronos open, because there are ways to kind of handle the Chronos. And if Splyce do lock it in, at least you know for sure it's going to go in the hands of CycloneSpin, so emilitoo can kind of figure out a matchup he prefers.
Well, we'll see the Erlang Shen taken away. Someone that's been around for a little bit now, Erlang Shen. But that doesn't mean the AMC gets through. Now, not only is the Muzen Cob good in push power, but one thing he's very good at doing is keeping you in combat, which is something we don't talk too much about, but it does mean that you don't get to blink initiate as often, because bees are such an issue.
It is going to be annoying to find a way to penetrate that backline up against the Muzen Cob. However, when you're spreading that honey, you're kind of relatively close to the enemy, so you could still get blinked on right before it lands on the ground. But I love this Amaterasu pick, stripping this away from Baskin.
Is it too early for an Amaterasu pick, though? Because Ama early game, she's not the greatest, right?
She's not, but I think in Splyce's favor, Baskin has shown the true strength from Amaterasu, so they're a little worried about the late game power from Splyce. Yes, this is late game between Amaterasu and Chronos, but eUnited are no strangers to getting to that late game.
Well, it's no surprise we didn't really touch on the Chronos pick there, but we've already expected that to go into the hands of emilitoo. He's pretty much got a skin based off his performances on that god. Splyce having a good long think here. Naja is going to be the selection. Definitely viable for the support role or the junglers where we see it most of the time. But that Kumbhakarna will give me the idea that it's definitely not going to be a support Naja. Aror has been piloting this a lot just lately.
And he's definitely been running level 1 Blink almost every game exclusively on any support that he's played. And between him engaging, forcing Purification Bees, expect Scream to follow up on the Naja.
We see that chat cover there, and funny enough, the last time I saw a chat get picked up in the mid lane was BigManTingz, and that's why I'm saying that, because I think it's a possibility they look towards this here. I'm not fully invested in it just yet, as instead they'll switch up to Horus. So that's giving me the idea that Amaterasu is in the solo here.
It seems that way. Chalk would have been really surprising to me.
Yeah, me too.
Final K did bring it out that one time in the solo lane, but Rival didn't really win it because of the Chalk anyway. It's great for anti-attack speed, but I think Horus provides a different kind of utility in terms of the heals and the protections he provides his teammates.
Definitely. Horus is not the greatest in the laning phase. His clear's a little bit lackluster, and that's one of the reasons we can expect to see him in that support role more often than not. eUnited will take away the Poseidon. Obviously, the Whirlpools will cause problems for some of those characters, and Krakens too. Splyce take out the Darju.
Surprised that they don't actually lock in the Poseidon for themselves, knowing eUnited have the next pick, but knowing BigManTingz, he likes his Ryzen from time to time. Could be the next go-to for eUnited.
At the same time, though, you say Poseidon for eUnited, I can see it, but then they would be a little bit magical damage heavy there, wouldn't they, in terms of their burst?
Sure, but like Amaterasu has great late game damage as well, just to amplify the magical damage with her passive 10% extra damage received. I was expecting maybe a Shaman's Ring being picked up by both those magical damage dealers anyway, so I'm not super worried if they are magical focused.
Well, Set is still available here, and I'm interested to see if either of these two teams will look towards him. Although this time, iceicebaby going to go back towards the Mercury. We don't see too much Mercury as of late, but it's definitely leaning towards iceicebaby as the #1 player, I'd say.
Global pressure, never a bad thing. It's not as reliable compared to the Thors, the Thanatoses, and the Ratataskers, since you have to have a linear path to be able to effectively use the Sonic Boom, but it can definitely catch the opponent slipping with how fast that Sonic Boom is delivered.
We'll see how that works out for them then. Because Splyce have 2 more picks, and the Morrigan is available. Venenu, a great pilot of that god towards the mid lane there, so no real surprises. But will it be the Morrigan in mid or the duo lane here? That's the question I'm going to ask you, because we've seen some Morrigan in the duo lane as well before.
Venenu has played a Muzen card before, so I wouldn't be surprised if CycloneSpin plays the Morrigan, depending on how Splyce have prepared for eUnited today. But I think it's better to play it safe and run a Muzen card against Chronos in that dual lane. You're going to have more pushing power. The purple buffs are always a liability.
Okay, Splyce then having a good think about their last pick. More than likely need a solo laner here to take on that Amaterasu we're expecting from eUnited. So what is Baskin going to be piloting is the question. The world is almost his oyster. If you were against Ama, what would you want? Vamana?
Maybe not Vamana, but you know what? Who's to really judge Baskin in his god selections? By the way, Jormungandr was up this whole time. Neither team selecting that one. I think Vamana provides the ability to stay on the Chronos. You can easily blink onto him, clear the path for the knock-up. If Chronos time stops you, you just go into the Colossal Fury and keep going.
Couple of attack speed slows on the side of Splyce when you think about it too. Kumbhakarna and Vamana do get a bit of attack speed slows, and that's going to be impactful against the likes of a Chronos here, who is looking to try and, well, go fast.
Or even the Mercury, if you're stuck in a 1v1 against him, you're building physical defense. It works wonders with Vamana and that passive, so that could be another way to survive some of these jungle ganks.
And there comes the Crips, more than likely for the mid lane there. BigManTingz going to be pressing 4. He's doing a Moswell impersonation potentially here. How do you feel about these compositions, Totally? I'm still not sure either way at the moment.
I think eUnited have a better team fighting composition, whereas Splyce is about the burst and the picking potential. If Aror goes for the Blinker level 1, which I am expecting, he's going to need to make a lot of early plays to help Splyce get that early lead.
And is that the real play here from Splyce? Go in early game?
It feels that way between Nanja, Muzen for the pushing power, right? Like, this is an early game focus out of Splyce. The only late game I'm really seeing is like Vamana and the Morrigan here.
And when you look at eUnited's composition, the longer this game goes on, the more problematic Puch and Chronos may become. And not just that, there's still going to be a Mercury in the jungle. So early game, let's see if Splyce can take off, and if they don't, there's a good chance eUnited can transition well.
It's very possible. I think eUnited need to protect that backline, and that's why they did draft the Puch. So that way, when BigManTingz is with emilitoo, at least you can empty the crypts and allow your frontline to still do their own job.
Okay, Tolly, if you had to pick right now, who's winning game 1
I
based
think
off these?
eUnited. I honestly do. I like their draft a little bit more. The Amaterasu was the key for me because Baskin really likes this goddess. He's run it before in the past, and it's up to Benji to show Baskin who's the better soul laner today.
It's been an interesting tournament so far. Let's get into it then. It's Splyce up against eUnited. Tom and Taco are standing by.
Interesting, to say the least, Hindu man. Tom and Taco on the call, and of course Doug going to be on the observation as we get ready for game number 1. Splyce and eUnited will be taking the field in just a matter of moments. We'll brief pause while we get everything sorted out, but Baskin on the Vamana should be an interesting look for sure. And as we fix everything, We'll see how these teams kind of fix themselves as they get ready to play. Because honestly, Taco, I really like Tolly's analysis up until he picked the team. When I look at what Splyce have drafted, and I know the capability of the individuals, I'm really high on these Naja picks, these Vamana picks. How you feeling?
But there's a ton of, I think, AoE control from eUnited that could be very concerning for Splyce's current draft because they might have to get a little bit up close and personal, and it can be difficult to close the gap when there's an Puch ultimate kind of filling the space in between.
That's a big point, and I think we'll see that specifically when it comes time to Siege, when teams start going in that direction towards the end game. But you heard the early game thoughts process from Hindu Man. Yeah, man, if Scream gets off on that Naja, that can be pretty dire, so definitely got to watch out for that one. And that's what we'll do right now. Want to give a shout out to iceicebaby on the Mercury, though. That's a kind of a legacy pick. We don't really see too much Merc anymore, but Ice will be bringing him out.
Definitely a battle of the hyper carries, though, between iceicebaby and Scream. And really, it all just depends on who gets the better initiation when it comes to Mercury and Naja. As far as the 1v1 specifically with those two is concerned, though, might have to give a little bit of an edge to Scream throughout the early to mid game, but eUnited are aware of the pressure that Splyce is capable of right now, and they're kind of tentatively placed around their buffs.
Exactly. We saw Splyce, the 5-man group up, just kind of peeking into eUnited's jungle, not really committing, backing off, and then changing their mind. eUnited, on the other hand, definitely a more defensive set. CycloneSpin playing the oddball ADC as well. We saw some very strange stuff from Snoopy, which, to be fair, weird stuff in the carry role is kind of Snoopy's go-to option, and CycloneSpin might just be the number 2 in that category. Bringing out the Morrigan is not as crazy, I think, as a lot of people might seem.
I think that Zapman has kind of put Morrigan a little bit more so on the map in this split, or at least in Season 6. That's how it feels, because Cyclone, I think, has decent kill potential with this Morrigan selection, and especially when you factor in how difficult it can be to kill a Chronos in general, Morrigan might just be the solution that Splyce needed for the first answer.
I love the transition. BigManTingz gets stunned out. That's going to be it. Was that beads? That was beads. BigManTingz uses the beads there.
Probably thought the Venenu was a little bit closer and didn't want to get hit by any of the swarm damage too soon.
Yeah, swarm and a slow, and you're just Puch kind of lurching your way over there to the mid lane. But it's interesting. Something that, doesn't affect the game. We've largely changed our terminology that carry roll. A little bit of a scrum in the mid lane. BigManTingz. Oh, he's dead. He's so dead. Venenu confirms it. Aror stops the low mobility mid laner right there in the mid lane. Easy.
And that's exactly why Scream was so intent on trying to pull the purification beads from BigManTingz early on. While it might not feel as though Splyce have a ton of kill potential, you have to factor in that Kumbhakarna with that root is the kind of setup you need against the lack of mobility of an Puch.
Exactly. You want to punish that low mobility, not even just early, at all points in the game, but it's easiest in that early point when he just has less options available to him. No point will he ever get a leap, a jump, or a dash, but can definitely heal himself, etc.
And depending on how quickly Scream can try and farm his way up to level 5, there's a chance that Splyce might be able to look for another pick against BigManTingz before he has a chance to hit level 5, or before he even has a chance to have his beads back up off cooldown. I mean, a minute and a half is a relatively long time in these mid lane engagements.
Looking over here at the short side, Benji versus Baskin, and I like this matchup here, Taco, because I think that a lot of people would agree. Baskin simply outclasses the majority of people that have ever played solo lane. And so when you look at this matchup, when you see Baskin, it's kind of, almost a throwaway. Benji is one of the few players on the planet that I think can match Baskin in individual games. And so this matchup is interesting to me. I like watching it.
Benji also knows Baskin, I think, a little bit better than most solo laners. Have to remember that once upon a time ago, Baskin's primary role in competitive play was solo, and
I still
Benji
think
was one of the first
solo
solo laners he had to start practicing against. And that was right around the time period where, for a moment, people were starting to wonder if Benji might just be the outright best solo laner in the world. And he's definitely gone through his iterations of highs and lows, usually a little bit more dependent around where the team success is at, but Benji with this Amaterasu, he's not picking it for the laning phase. He's picking it purely for the team fight potential.
Absolutely. You don't clear with Amaterasu until level 8, 9, and it's one of the few characters that actually exists in this lane without a Glad Zerker shield, right? You can go different options here, which is also kind of another side effect there of going into the Amaterasu. More varied itemization for sure.
Who I'm really trying to keep an eye on here, though, is iceicebaby, because these sonic booms could be super detrimental for Cyclone, depending on whether or not he's actually able to catch this Morrigan out. And already starting to run down the lane of Duo, maybe not trying to get spot out in the jungle, just in case somebody from Splyce is going deep for those back harpies. And
that's what this is.
Hugging behind the T1 tower wall. He wants blood, and he wants it against Cyclone, but Cyclone's just heading back to base. There's nothing left for iceicebaby to farm, and now it's just a missed opportunity.
Yep. Honestly, Ice Ice doesn't lose too much for that setup. His backcamp's are on cooldown anyway.
He's waiting for the buffs to spawn.
Yep.
So it's, if we get it, awesome. If we don't, well, nothing you can really do about it.
Here's the thing that I find interesting there. Cyclone just backs, knowing that the jungler hits 5, this is Mercury, it's 2019, we've seen this gank a lot. Does Cyclone kind of read and predict that, or did it just so happen that he was going back at that moment?
I'm expecting Cyclone's positioning to start to shift now that he knows iceicebaby is level 5. We'll probably start to see him hover more towards the right side, closer to the jungle structures, because if you stick a little bit too far out to the left-hand side of that wall and just hug the forest end, then you're going to run the risk of just Mercury having very clear vision on you. And even if he misses the sonic boom, the fact that you're still that far out in the lane as opposed to the jungle where you can try to actually look for a quick get-away with the Morrigan invis.
Of course, you got the follow-up crowd control coming out from Mercury as well.
It all depends. Special delivery can be kind of tough to hit because I would almost always anticipate Cyclone to pop beads if necessary and just disappear.
The going back to the idea of the Morrigan here, you know, Snoopy we just saw play 2, not interesting. You know, the game didn't change because we changed terminology, right? We stopped calling that position Hunter. Now we call it carry in official, you know, nomenclature, right? And I think that's important to the core of the game. You got to open your brain outside of this Hunter position and bring Vulcan's set, the Morrigan. Hunters have their spot, and you absolutely should play them. Shoutouts to AMC, but you're playing carry, and you should open your mind there, as a lot of our players have done this mid-season invitation.
Well, that's part of the fun, though, of Season 6 SMITE, where it feels like just about any and every composition can work. All just depends on what strengths you're trying to cater towards. And looking at Splyce, they have eUnited shoved so far back whenever they have presence in their lanes. And I'm almost starting to wonder if Splyce is trying to gear up for some possible buff invades. I would definitely like to see them go for it sooner rather than later, though, because now that they've got the pressure in the laning phase with eUnited so far back, it's going to be more difficult for eUnited to find favorable positioning to protect their buffs. Yeah,
Splyce definitely have had the upper hand as far as the pressure and the push is concerned, and because of that, they've earned themselves a decent 1,000 gold lead, likely from gold denied over there on the solo side. There's a raw ult come out from Scream, gonna grab iceicebaby, cuts him down to 80%. Baskin on the bottom brings him down to below 40. And that's all the team needs to open up the blue buff door. Benji gonna pop an ultimate as well. Baskin doesn't trade his out. Rotation from BigManTingz makes this a 4-on-3. Aror knocked up, big damage out of BigManTingz. And Collis will fall down. Last hit goes to the mid lane mage. eUnited with the kill, the return. Baskin pops into the ultimate, trying to find a way out.
Might be able to get away thanks to that HP 5 regen on the big baby Vamana version, but the damage has already been done. Splyce get the blue buff. Baskin actually still in danger. Carl's going to reinitiate. Benji now into the silence, but a quick dash away from Baskin means that he'll wind up safe and sound in the safety of his own T1 tower. Scream also ensuring that his solo laner doesn't lose his blue buff in return. And with that being said, eUnited still trailing ever so slightly behind Splyce, but proving that they're not going to let Splyce do whatever they want in their jungle.
A little bit rough play there from Scream. Naja does a lot of... When we talk about Naja's early game, it's not ultimate into big damage. Windfire Wheels needs the power and the critical strike online. When you're looking for the early game stuff, it's ring toss, it's the stun from the artillery stash. Scream raw ulting that I don't know, man.
But it looked cool.
It did look cool.
It looked super cool.
It looked
The
super dope.
timing was impeccable. I mean,
It was.
He had he read iceicebaby like a book.
Yep.
Knew he was coming from around that corner, and I think that it was interesting for iceicebaby to kind of learn that walking around your own jungle isn't going to be a safety guarantee.
It's a big deal. It's about sending a message, right?
And looking cool. Trust me, the style points is really
Absolutely.
the pro bono there for.
I mean, Solo or Troll played fantastically last set. You know why? He's got the gold Jordans on.
Makes sense.
He's got the golden Jordans.
Look good, feel good, play good.
Hell yeah, man. That's what it's all about. Splyce trying to make eUnited feel not so good as they steal away the speed buff. 2 versus 4. Baskin gets silenced out after the dash. That's an important point. Baskin actually looks more nervous than usual, but I think he's out.
But look at what Venenu and Cyclone are doing in response. They've just been farming out the other side of the map. That red buff having been stripped away as well from BigManTingz, and even though eUnited, it's nothing drastic just yet, but it could start to build up. It's already gone from just a 900, 800 or so gold lead to now Splyce having a fairly comfortable 1200 over eUnited, and it's mostly the experience gaps that are starting to develop that can become concerning here for eUnited.
That's the big deal, and again, just to reiterate, one of the finer points of the game is the amount of experience and gold that you get per the camp. If you're on the opponent's side of the map, so the invades, they're actually they're worth less golden experience, but the more important point is that you are denying the opponent the opportunity to get their 100% golden experience. So like you mentioned, Splyce are invading, but more importantly, they're invading and getting their own buffs at the same time.
Well, Splyce have just distracted eUnited so well with this solo lane pressure that it kind of falsely baited eUnited into believing that their duo side of the map was going to be safe and sound, and all the while, I think that this is really what Splyce were truly after, was control of the duo side of the map. I mean, Gold Fury is the big map objective to play around early on. Splyce has had very heavy control as well over those left and right side mid Harpies. I think only once or twice have I seen eUnited actually been able to successfully challenge Splyce on that global farm. And
Interesting. I just noticed this. Wolf's trying to get out, but blink for blink, and we're good. You know, I know we just saw Snoopy win a set with Vulcan ADC, but I'm pretty sure it's not like 2016. iceicebaby bought Golden Blade on the Merc. Now, it's interesting because it doesn't have the interaction with Mage look like it used to, but still an item you want to see?
still factors in with his passive, but iceicebaby probably not too happy with Baskin on yet another successful buff strip away. 3 members of eUnited now dancing around this Vamana, but this is all that Baskin wants.
Wow.
He just wants to keep eUnited looking one direction while Splyce do all the dirty work on the other side.
Another red buff invade as well, and that goes that
And
direction.
blue.
Man, Baskin, that's what I'm talking about. He is just
Annoying.
yeah, he's just jungle right side, solo lane. He's kind of playing 2 positions right now and doing well at it. Blackthorn going to give him some nice stats, as well as whatever breastplate he goes into. Doubt that's going to be Thebes.
Benji wants an opportunity to reply, but with
Tough.
Screammmmm nearby, 2v1 just not looking super favorable for the Amaterasu. Splyce also rather aggressively positioned and vocal to the area if called upon. So it's not like eUnited really have much of an opportunity to try and outconfirm their buffs. Even when you look at like just the base damage compared in the 1v1 matchups across each of the roles, Splyce have a lot of confirmation for buff secure.
That's really exactly. They've got the buff secure. BigManTingz is going to have objective kind of denial. Not this situation where you want to go head-to-head with eUnited when it comes time for the larger objectives, but you know, if BigManTingz is dropping all his damage and his ultimate on a red buff, that just opens up the Gold Fury, the larger objectives for Splyce. So these small invades are going to be very, very successful for Splyce, and right now have proven to be, as they're an even 2,000 gold above their opposition just 13 minutes in. But I do hold a candle for eUnited when they get to the larger objective times. Because when BigManTingz is able to just dump truck everything, that will be a lot different from these engagements that we're seeing from Splyce.
iceicebaby, though, finally going to get a chance to defend his buffs, but this could be trouble for eUnited. 3 members grouped up around this speed buff with Baskin coming to interfere, and all of Splyce are going to head straight to this Gold Fury as a result.
Mwah. This is conditioning. This is classic. This is Pavlov's Bell. eUnited, though, are here, and emilitoo not gonna... There it is, not gonna go for it. However, the ultimate from Scream, setting up Venenu, waiting on the bottom. Good music from that side, but iceicebaby cuts the fight in half. Doesn't really hit anybody with it. Benji's deep, top of Scream, by himself. Kala's being pushed up by emilitoo, and Baskin still looking for the right side flank.
United just a little bit too disjointed to want to tango with Splyce just yet. That sonic boom from iceicebaby, mostly intended to prevent any sort of follow-up damage from Scream, had Venenu and CycloneSpin waiting at the bottom, but can't just stand around idly when there's a sonic boom. You expect initiation immediately after the fact, so Splyce softly disengage, but I don't think that they're quite ready to give up this Gold Fury just yet. Still hovering around in the mid lane is Scream, Ven, and Aror, and I have to expect that they're going to look to challenge on these oracles.
See, yep, you are correct. Kalas gets bent down just a little bit. There's a jump to the teammate. emilitoo gets the rewind, but the rest of Splyce is here waiting for the magical ADC. Scream dealing the damage slowly, but great ultimate from BigManTingz saves his carry. Unlikely that Kalas will have the same luxury. He does not. Splyce get the kill, and we'll look at the Gold Fury.
But all the ultimates that could have been utilized to contest this Gold Fury have already been expended just to provide emilitoo an escape route. So now Splyce, they'll take their prizing as perfectly fine as they would have taken a kill onto emilitoo.
And that's just what I was saying. It didn't come by way of red buff invade, but it came by way of getting away from whatever was happening in the jungle. BigManTingz drops his dump truck, and there's nothing else available for the Gold Fury defense. Benji a little bit deep by himself here, trying to match Baskin. Scream's gonna grab the perfectly timed ultimate. As soon as the CC immunity was done, Benji gets taken to the sun. And Aror will root and finish this one off. Venenu gets the last hit off the assist of everyone.
Only difference is Baskin's doing the exact same thing as Benji, except having all this CC immunity for a much longer period in the big baby form means that eUnited won't be able to find a pick response on Splyce's solo. And Benji, I definitely respect the decision to look for the invade there, but might have been a little bit too lately timed.
I feel that.
A little bit too late to look for that. Baskin, however, taking full advantage of Benji's respawn timer and trying to put in as much poke as he can onto this T2 tower.
He's got a ton of protections, which translates to power, and a ton of CDR as well.
Blackthorn Hammer and the Breastplate of Valor combined is going to give him that 30% cooldown reduction that Vamana's definitely love to try and abuse on the squishier god. So mostly keeping an eye on BigManTingz as this game continues to develop, because I would have to expect that Baskin is going to be the designated outwash babysitter that he never asked for.
Yeah, that sneeze winds up doing a little bit too much damage, and so when you have 30% CDR and you can just kind of, it's instant, man. Vamana seems like a character, and he had been updated. I think it was very important the change to the ultimate, HP 5, shield, etc. But Vamana sometimes feels in the wrong hands like just he doesn't do as much as some of the other choices. When you see Baskin play it, you certainly see the potential.
Aror just gonna toss out the epic uppercut to keep eUnited preoccupied, kind of baiting himself while his team continues to work on the objectives. And that's something that eUnited has had a lot of issues so far when it comes to Splyce. They just can't really gauge what Splyce are truly after and keep getting distracted by the small prizes instead of the big ones.
And you know, it's funny, you say distracted by the small prizes, but Splyce, they have a Gold Fury, sure, in 17 minutes, but that is not a 6,000 gold lead. A Gold Fury at 15-ish minutes is, you know, that's 2K. This is a lead brought to you by the small wins. You know, little couple of steps ahead, and that's how Splyce have amassed this pretty dominant lead.
Baskin, though, blinking in, looking for that Armored Umbrella, toss out for some damage, but it's Collis who's in danger right now with the Windfire Wheels, going to dash straight into iceicebaby, but a nice root from Aror, going to keep both Horus and the Mercury at bay. Meanwhile, Baskin tanks up T1 tower, and all of Splyce, they work to bring it down.
Baskin and Benji zoning in the jungle. Collis is relatively low. Aror sends him to the sky. Nobody's here. Nobody's here. Aror needed some follow-up. Baskin around the backside could be that follow-up, however late it may be. 1 versus 3 under the tier 2 tower. He'll take more damage than he asked for. Benji's here and will look to finish him, but he won't be able to find it. Now it's Mercury's turn. Baskin actually chasing the Mercury. That's that. Solo lane Baskin gets out again. Silver lining for eUnited. The left side tier 1 tower does go down, and Chronos working on a tier 2 could chunk it.
Keep an eye on emilitoo, though, because CycloneSpin and Aror probably not too happy about this one. Not even going to worry about the creep, just looking for Emil outright. A nice changeling transformation for Cyclone's going to buy him a little bit of time, but emilitoo's going to lose Purification Bead. Cyclone waiting for the Windfire Wheels, and he's got him. 1, 2, 3. Aror on the ground. That's for me, says the support. And Emil falls down before the tier 2, which is very important. That tier 2 tower is 1,500 gold, and at this moment in time, when you're down this amount, 6,000, that's actually a nice jump back in. So Chronos pushing that tier 2. That was the right plan for Emil. I like the idea. Splyce just showed up. Would have been massive, though, for emilitoo. At that point, I feel like when you invest the beads, you should just full commit to the tower.
Yeah,
you're
don't
dead
even look.
Either way, rewind or not, likelihood of emilitoo getting bailed out by his team, 0 chance from where they were at on the map, and emilitoo, of course, running away himself. I just don't think it was possible.
No, I think you go for the time stop and the focus on the tower. Benji here. Also surrounded. Number 5 for Splyce. I always think of the Apollo, and with the mid-season update notes, I think we're going to see some Apollo. I always think of the Mez while I focus the tower. That probably would have worked there for Chronos. You're talking about the 1 versus 2 while the team does the Fire Giant?
Well, eUnited, they just don't know which way to look. Collis is here trying to play defense on the FG and will survive at the moment, but Fire Giant still sitting at 50% HP. iceicebaby and emilitoo now going to try to help out the efforts of their support, but Baskin's on the backside.
Full peel. Baskin's coming from the left-hand side. Half of the team has Girdle. Only half of the team needed. As emilitoo falls down to the hand of CycloneSpin. Baskin's here, but Cyclone takes it. 2 for the Morrigan in the carry role. And Ice still here. Looking to make this his. Lined up. Too late. Splyce get the Fire Giant. Ice doesn't even have a shot. Aror could just die here, but Ice more afraid of him than anyone else. Blink. And the last shot again. It's 2-0-2 for Baskin.
This spam of control, though, from Splyce is relentless right now for eUnited. iceicebaby doesn't even know how to respond. Just blink, juggled around every which direction, and it's almost like there's aggression coming from every side of the map that you could picture. Baskin, with the ability to control 2 to 3 members at a time from eUnited, they're just having a really tough time responding.
Well, this is fantastic, and this is fantastic work from Splyce. And, you know, it's interesting because Anatoly absolutely nailed the analysis on the desk. eUnited have a team fight composition. The reason they're losing is because Splyce won't let them team fight. There's all these 1 versus 2, 2-on-2, 3v3 duels in the jungle, and this is what we're getting.
This is just disgusting right now, though. It feels like there's almost always at least one person going up into the air. If it's not a Windfire Wheels, it's the epic uppercut.
Or the other Windfire Wheels.
Or it's just Baskin doing it all on his own. He's got iceicebaby and Collis with him. eUnited are just so split apart. Their best hope is sending him emilitoo to try and split push himself.
iceicebaby's level 15, Collis is level 14, and Baskin, the level 20 Vamana, 1v2 in a halving. As we saw Puch show up there late. Left side Phoenix is under duress. Girdle will be popped. Frenzy means fight. iceicebaby uses the ultimate looking for the defensive play. Meanwhile, so BigManTingz will zone players away from the objective itself. Collis dashes back to BMT, and Ice behind enemy lines. No ultimate available for him. So Ice will just be forced to be chased, and Baskin nails the slow. Aror dashing up, blink. Perfect pre-beads on the Mez. Can't do it again for the root. Walled. And Baskin with kill number 3.
The second Splyce get a hold of eUnited, it's just full hook, line, and sinker. There's no opportunity for escape. The blink-ins and the control, it's just gross. And Scream gonna get duped a little bit there by emilitoo. Pretty cheeky back inside of the back heartbeats for the Chronos, and that's crucial for eUnited because they need every last member they can get for this left side Phoenix defense.
Baskin already diving the carry, and Kala's going to go protect him. Meanwhile, Benji trying to peel the backline from Splyce, but it's not working. Benji's sitting there saying, look at me, and Splyce won't do it. The Phoenix falls down. Benji's in trouble as he finds his way back to the fountain. CycloneSpin misses the Dark Omen. Left bird is down, and the mid Phoenix. Well, it's your turn.
Well, they've got Scream. Scream might not have been joining Splyce in the fights that were taking place over there in duo lane throughout the siege, but all the while he's pushing up those minion waves, reestablishing mid lane pressure in Splyce's favor, but Fire Giant just only existing on Splyce for a couple seconds longer, so they don't really feel all that comfortable, I think, looking for a mid lane Phoenix.
Baskin versus the world. Could be in trouble here. Ring bounce from Scream, not enough, but eUnited use Benji's ultimate, Ice ultimate, BigManTing's ultimate, Shell, also one blink and a frenzy to kill Baskin. They do get a pyromancer off of it.
But it's a pyromancer that they can't really use. It's mostly just to try and put somewhat of a stoppage to Splyce, because without Baskin, Splyce don't really have as many opportunities to harass multiple parties at the exact same time, because that was really the big problem for eUnited. You can't have the team fight, of course, if all 5 members aren't around, and with Baskin able to toggle between 2 to 3 of them at a time, well, tough for eUnited to try and have a response with their carries. And this, for me, Tom, at least, is mostly just eUnited also kind of getting punished for their lack of a consistent front line.
Lack of a consistent front line? Yeah, sure. Kalas, lack of Benji?
Horus is the win more god. I am full on convinced.
Really?
He feels so good from ahead.
Yeah, he does.
But the second that your team falls behind, it's hard to utilize or get any sort of heavy utility, at least, out of his ultimate.
The ultimate, yes. I think the ability to dash to a teammate through walls from a football pitch field away is fine. Some of the other options he's got is nice, but if you're just getting blown up. BigManTingz falls down to the wayside as Baskin just walks at 3 people. emilitoo! Venenu finds the shot after Baskin brings him down. iceicebaby has to exit stage left. Benji being attacked up on the right-hand side. Kalas in the middle of nowhere, not being able to help anybody on the squad. And that is the issue. We can have a conversation about Horus and talk about what he brings to a team and what he doesn't bring to a team, but Kalas has been in between these fights. And again, I bring it back to what Splyce has been doing. They've transitioned this pick composition into a mini fight composition, and they're just gonna run it up mid. They're not aiming for the Phoenix, they're going for the Titan. The minions have already clocked in, and the Titan falls down. Splyce take game 1, 15-2.
Not gonna lie, Tom, if you told me that this would have been the end result after how this game started off for Splyce, I don't think I would have expected it to have collapsed that rapidly for eUnited. It felt like that one first blood against Aror was all that Splyce were willing to give up in the early game. eUnited didn't even get an opportunity to try and force gank opportunities with this Mercury. I don't think we saw a single iceicebaby ultimate coming from downtown or anything like that. He never had a chance. Baskin was just all over eUnited, and if it wasn't Baskin, well, it was just the entire rest of Splyce diving into the jungle.
There were 3 things that I think went wrong here, Taco, for eUnited. Everything went right for Splyce. I think 1, the pick composition worked out. I said I've got faith in the execution level of these players. The first Scream gank, not really what we wanted to see. After that, everything fell into place. 2, late game dominance from eUnited doesn't work if you don't make it to the late game. And 3, Baskin. Let's toss it to the desk to reflect.
Thanks so much, Cassis. Yeah, a dominant game one from Splyce there on the docket already. eUnited didn't really seem to get things going there, Tony, whatsoever.
No, not at all. After the first blood that Splyce had, the only redemption that eUnited had was punishing Splyce from the blue buff invade. It was very close for a majority of that early game. We see like a great performance coming out of CycloneSpin on the Morrigan.
And I think the one thing that Taco and Tom were talking about there towards the end was definitely about the lack of front line that eUnited had, a hard front line, so to speak, because they only really had that Horus and Amaterasu, but never really a chance for them to group up and get on the same page there.
The global pressure from iceicebaby wasn't there, and the Horus from Callus was getting punished. Around that Gold Fury at the 14-minute mark, CycloneSpin actually makes a really good play onto Callus's Horus.
Yeah, tell me
what happens here is that the flank occurs onto emilitoo. There was just too much focus fire coming through onto these oracles. We can see that the members out of eUnited here were just too grouped up. Around here, no one is really paying attention to where is a CycloneSpin, and this was being dealt without Bumba's mask. So if we play it from here, we'll see the rotation coming through. CycloneSpin's going to force out the very early rewind where everyone else from eUnited is going to get flushed into the middle lane. And then from here, nobody else is really making the rotation from the solo lane. The ultimate comes through from BigManTingz' outpush just to zone, but left high and dry was Callus onto this Horus. This was the very first Gold Fury at 15 minutes into the game, which shows how close this game was, because normally Gold Furies are contested a little bit earlier. And then after that point, it was Fire Giant that was being utilized by Splyce to really dominate the game.
Yeah, that timing there was very, very good. And that's one thing that Morrigan always brings in that little replay you showed us there, the ability to flank around the back with the stealth and not be spotted. We've still got to keep track of where your lane opponent is.
And that was without Bumba's mask for the extra mobility. That was just a normal movement speed Morrigan. Gotta always have that in the back of your mind of like, all right, where can the Morrigan be? Because CycloneSpin definitely kept iceicebaby in the back of his mind. He was never really in a position to get ganked in that lane. There was this one time where Iceice was really looking for that gank at level 5 around the 4-minute mark, but he just could never find it. It kind of delayed his farming a smidge.
Well, it's quarterfinals here today, and obviously the Pro League is best of 5s. These today are best of 3s. So it's a bit of a trickier situation now for eUnited to bounce back. In picks and bans is what it's going to all come down to here. They need to win 2 in a row now to try and advance on to face off against Armada in the semi-finals tomorrow. Funny enough, Splyce going to be the second pick here, eUnited with the first pick option. So we're definitely going to see a different change of pace in the pick and ban phase.
eUnited choosing to go for that first pick option there. They want to maybe draft the Muzen Cup for themselves, because the way Big Man died that early at level 2, he got his bees really forced out, and then the follow-up route into the Muzen Cup damage was too much for him to handle. You gotta allow BigManTingz a lot of comfort to start off the game.
And eUnited then going to have a think about what they want to deal with this time round and what they want to take away. Is there anything that you saw Splyce draft that you don't want to deal with as eUnited, so you ban it, or is it just all the sort of picks that you're going to end up having to maybe look to take yourself?
If I'm banning anything, maybe I'm banning away either Morrigan or the Kumbhakarna.
I was thinking the Morrigan was the one that was on my head, but I'm a bit worried about, like, you know, first banning Morrigan. Can you really do that?
No, you're not really going to be able to first ban the Morrigan, but Splyce picked it after secondary phase, so you still have that option to do the bans of the secondary.
Now, eUnited in the first game, they did draft the Amaterasu very early. Low lane pressure, and, well, Baskin had the run of the mill, so to speak, over on that right-hand side because of it. We'll see if eUnited look to make adjustments based off that. They've taken away Merlin already. Splyce respond with Freya. And now eUnited are like, well, what do we definitely not want Splyce to have in the second phase? That combo option could be available here.
Well, Splyce were feeling confident in giving up Chronos the last time around, so I don't expect a Chronos ban coming through from Splyce. If anything, I'm probably banning away the Muzen Cup, because honestly, between both of these teams, neither one of them focused on the Jormungandr in that first game.
Very good point indeed. Maybe we'll see some Jormungandr too. Splyce, though, had the option to ban one more pick away from eUnited. AMC is definitely a talking point for sure here. But that would leave a couple of things available once more. The Orm definitely up, but I don't think we'll see too much of it. It could be a possibility.
If it's not a Muzen comp, it's got to be the Naja as well. Like, those are your two go-to picks between these two teams. I think that Scream had a relatively good showing on that god.
Pretty sure it was Erlang Shen banned by eUnited in game 1 in that last ban
Yes,
phase,
it was.
right?
Freya into the Erlang for eUnited.
Erlang's still definitely a good ban option here. If you're playing against Scream from Splyce as well, you probably want to keep that in the back of your mind as well. Splyce going to take away Ratatoska, trying to limit down iceicebaby's options a little bit more here.
That's what they banned away in that first game. They didn't want to have that global pressure, which forced Ice to a different kind of global pressure. It wasn't the Thor, the Thanatos to compensate. It was this Sonic Boom from Mercury, which didn't really have too much effect. I wanted to see him go for maybe the Erlang now that it's open.
Chronos immediately locked in for eUnited, more than likely into the hands once more of emilitoo. And Splyce then get the option of picking up that AMC and the Erlang Shen that gets through the ban phase. Doesn't really surprise me, those two picks.
This is looking already scary for eUnited. I'm favoring Splyce's first two picks over the Chronos. I don't think emilitoo popped off the way he needed to warrant such an early Chronos pick. And now the fact that they're leaning it yet again in game number 2, I think there needs to be more ways to get him rolling. I don't think Horus is the way to go this time.
Okay, eUnited going to go back to some tried and true methods here, I want to say. King Arthur, an aggressive god for Benji, a dominant, potent solo laner. And then the Athena pickup, which is one of Callus' go-tos from years gone by. But funny enough, Ice can play that in the jungle too if required.
He could. I'm a little bit concerned that the King Arthur was picked with the Athena. That should have been maybe Hunbat's Athena instead, because now Ice is definitely not getting the Hunbat. Splyce will certainly ban that one away.
Well, so far, Vamana locked in straight away for Splyce there. Baskin clearly putting his finger saying, I want Vamana again. Let me play the baby.
It worked out well. It's very difficult to contest his clear that last game. Even though Benji was running the Amaterasu for late game team fights, Vamana was doing a good job controlling the lane, being able to get the Totem of Coups, make these rotations. His one pick onto Big Man's Puch is what set up the Fire Giant, especially after the secondary pick onto Benji.
Yeah, Splyce then going to take away the Darji, so focus some more bans towards iceicebaby that should be going into the jungle here. eUnited then, they're looking to probably take away a Hunter position, so some Cyclone-style gods here.
They could, yeah, Chernobog and Jingwei would be the best go-tos, but the two important gods that last game was certainly Kumbhakarna and Morrigan. However, I think Splyce is going to run Erlang in the support lane because they're going to draft themselves the Hunbats to follow, so that might have been a thrown away ban.
I get what you mean there. Or maybe they even take the Naja for themselves too, right? Because Naja's still available here so
Possible.
far. They could run it back again for Scream. I think this next ban from Splyce will give you the idea of what they're going to draft here.
It definitely is important, Naja, so that means probably Hunbats next for Splyce. With 4 physical, it's going to be a lot of pressure onto what Venenu can bring to the table, or maybe even to CycloneSpin to play a mage.
Decision time then for Splyce here as they get the next pick. Fafnir taken away, so a couple of shots there towards Aror's god pull with the Kumbhakarna also taken out. But he's not an easy person to ban out, Aror, in that support role. He's one of the first ones that ever brought out the assassin.
Season 3 Team Eager, he brought out the Erlang Shen to synergize with the best, playing a lot of Raw. So I'm still leading towards Aror for Erlang Shen. It's like the Spidey sense for whatever reason, this particular game.
Well, if it's the Erlang Shen, we should find out right about now. They do still need someone for CycloneSpin unless he's going to be piloting that Muzen Cobb. And they may want to hold that final pick for maybe that jungle support switcheroo.
We'll see what happens, but I'm still looking at this jungle pick, unless it's Erlang Shen in the jungle, of course. If you are going to pick something for Aror, you can also even draft the Hercules, but that's still going to be for physical.
Artio is the selection here. That should be for the support role, which means Erlang Shen will be in the jungle position, barring any craziness, because Vamana can jungle as well. We have to keep those options open and talked about, because a lot of the gods these days in Smite, specifically in Season 6, have a lot of flexibility into different roles.
Yeah, you never really know. And I like the Artio pick because in Season 5 days, when Aror was with Divios, they would flex this Artio Cerberus anytime they really wanted to. And against King Arthur, Cripple goes a real long way in trying to get that initial pick.
Poseidon, very good against the Artio as well with the Kraken ability. And the Arachne, this is the last pick here for eUnited. I'm never a fan of Arachne, me personally. I've just never really seen it come to fruition overall, totally. It's an individual god that might be great in your casual games and your ranked games, but I've just not seen it in the Pro League really perform as well as I would like.
Well, in the 1v1 against Erlang Shen, there is some kill potential there even before the 9 turns blessing gives you that heal. So I understand the pick, especially when you're trying to burst somebody down quick enough off of an Athena taunt and maybe burn some bees. Poseidon can easily follow up. There's a lot of damage from eUnited, but not the most peels if the Athena is the one engaging.
Okay, so it's a Zhong pick here for Splyce at the tail end of their draft. Definitely some flexibility, because funny enough, it's just going through my head that I remember CycloneSpin has played a bit of Vamana in the dual lane, the hunter position before.
Okay.
Vamana against Chronos in the dual lane and have Zhong in the solo lane is a possibility here.
It definitely is, because Vamana can just still safely clear, and once you are level 5 for the Colossal Fury, you can maybe force a bunch of rewinds there, which will allow Scream to make those secondary rotation ganks.
Yeah, Splyce's comp is pretty much everywhere and nowhere at the same time, so it's very hard for us on the desk to go, well, they're definitely going in this position, but I think that's a good thing that Splyce have here is that flexibility to be able to move around and surprise the United a little bit.
Zhong is going to be important to survive no matter which lane he goes, and I'm expecting it to maybe go in the hands of Venenu. I think that he's going to make the impact with all that AoE damage.
Well, we'll see if that happens. Do you reckon Splyce closes this out in 2 games here, Toli?
After going 15-2 in 26.5 minutes, my answer is yes.
Well, most of the time we see those situations unfold. Sometimes teams do surprise us with a turnaround. A United's composition here is a little bit better from my point of view, though, based off what we saw from Game 1. They do have a front line this time round. The Athena, Arachne, and King Arthur can all juggle that if required.
I'm still surprised there's no Hunbats.
Well, let's get it over to the casters then. F-Dot and Taco are standing by for Game 2.
Yes, we are. And Splyce look charged up and ready. You know, eUnited was looking like a strong team, I think, during the regular season, but things certainly look very different here. Splyce kind of on top of their mark. Nice burn in the blink nice and early. Splyce getting ready nice and early.
Instant blink away from iceicebaby before the card tick could actually do any damage against him, but CycloneSpin on the Zhong ADC, baby, to deal with Chronos and emilitoo.
That's spicy. And, you know, so this conversation didn't make it to broadcast. I think we were talking about it, but you were mentioning how Snoopy was one of the only carry players that were... We've seen carry players be creative with their selections, but Snoopy kind of going for the all-right or the all-out counter picks. Is this an all-out counter pick from Cyclone on top of the Chronos?
I don't view this as a counter pick opportunity for Cyclone, but it is still with a lot of potential to kind of bully the laning phase away from emilitoo. Having that card to full clear the wave, it's going to be kind of difficult. emilitoo can somewhat match pacing with Time Rift, but levels 3, 4 onwards, that's going to probably heavily favor CycloneSpin. And not only that, but he can also just use that card to kind of pokes emilitoo out consistently, and if Emil's having to play closer to his tower line, then that means it's a lot less likely for iceicebaby to have a decent gank opportunity in duo.
Yeah, I love the ability for the Zhong to be able to clear. I think you're absolutely right. And also the burst damage from Exorcism mid rewind. You know, that's something to think about as well. Having a Zhong is also... Zhong ultimate is one of the better teamfight ultimates. It's so strong. Right now, beads might not be enough for CycloneSpin. Under the tower is good. He will escape Ice's early level 2 gank.
And that was just the first of what could possibly be very many to come. Still, with no buffs up on Splyce's duo side of the map, right now, iceicebaby, the only thing he's really doing is leeching some of this experience away from emilitoo. And that's not a bad thing to share XP with your jungler by any means. It's just CycloneSpin isn't sharing, period.
Well, this is also a big deal. I mean, Emil has already chunked down this tower to below half HP, and Emil on the Chronos is something that, you know, he can clean that up relatively quickly. If the tier 1 tower goes down, all of a sudden this lane dynamic becomes very different. Scream's here, Knockup is going to be beads away, and that will be good enough. emilitoo can find his way back into the jungle. Aror shows up and will deny Ice entry, and that's the end of that.
Smart play, though, from emilitoo to just throw out the stop time in Scream's direction. Scream was the one who had all the kill potential if he was able to successfully get off that Mink form. Unfortunately, CycloneSpin also getting revisited by iceicebaby, but iceicebaby without the mana, it's not going to be able to do much else.
Good poke there on a CycloneSpin. Doesn't have the beads this time, but finds the stun, and that that'd be that. This is 3 times in 1 minute that they tried to jump on the big boy, and Cyclone walks away. Ain't a care in the world. So that one, at this point, I think you just leave him alone.
A lot of focus, though, being placed into this dual lane, and so early on as well from both of these teams. It's a little surprising, but at the same time, there's really not a ton taking place on the opposite side of the map. Baskin and Benji both kind of just left to their own devices with this Warrior v Warrior matchup. There's not really much to gain from looking at gank either one of these lanes early on.
Gone are the days of King Arthur just, demolishing anybody that dares look at him. Of course, this is pre-Glad Shield. This game particularly, Benji doesn't have Glad Shield yet, so he's a very different character. But even with Glad Shield, I think that Arthur has been brought down to a level that is kind of acceptable. Both two ways, right? Obviously, the touch from the game itself, the balance, and also, perhaps more importantly, players understanding his strengths and weaknesses and how to fight against him.
That latter reason probably being the more important one. It's just you've become a little bit more familiar with how to play out the matchup if you know that it's a losing one in your favor, or how to just deal with King Arthur in a team fighting situation. Splyce have an excellent team fight composition that I think it might be tough for Benji to work his way in there. emilitoo, though, could be in some trouble. Going to get rooted in place from Aror, but nice stop time on the CycloneSpin is going to stop him from being able to outright punish Emil.
Still big damage there. To your last point, about the King Arthur, I think that one of my favorite plays this season, Variety, the 1v4 up by the speed buff there, that doesn't happen anymore. And sure, again, character's been changed numerically, but also you don't group 4 players on top of a King Arthur.
Look at emilitoo in the player cam. Hand on the chin, that's when you know that we're here.
All right.
I know you're there.
I'm sitting on my tower.
This lane isn't fun anymore.
Nope. That's when you look to the player booths are directly across from each other. That's when you stand up and just look at the enemy jungler and go, Ice. I know you. I can see
It wasn't
you.
even Scream, though. I mean, whether it's Scream or Aror, I guess after how Game 1 ended up taking place, I kind of can't blame eUnited for being a little skeptical as to what's safe and what isn't in their jungle pathing.
Very true. Splyce, game number 1, were able to kind of find it off of good picks and scattering the enemy who had built around being around each other the entire time. They'd find, Splyce would find regularly Kalas by himself on the Horus, or Benji by himself, or Emil by himself.
It's forcing them to be by themselves.
Exactly. Barracuda brought up a great point on Twitter, saying that the spacing of the map was a really big point. It was. Kalas again being isolated. This time a little bit more traditional. The 3-on-3 in the mid lane. iceicebaby in the ultimate. But the first blood goes to Splyce. They win the scrum in the mid lane and are rewarded with an invade. Red buff's down, so Scream will go for Harpies.
This isn't safe just yet, though. emilitoo actually going to take one of the smaller Harpies off those backs, so still keeps track of that timer in case Scream does decide to revisit. But I can't really anticipate eUnited to want to go all in against an Erlang Shen in their back Harpies. So probably just a temporary victory for Splyce, but I'm looking mostly towards Venenu getting that first blood bounty.
Well, Benji's here. The dash is good, and the ultimate will land on top. Ice finds the shot. And eUnited will answer back here. A nice 1-kill to 1-kill game, and all things tied up.
Until Scream finds iceicebaby at his back Harpies. iceicebaby, though, without the Arachne ultimate, it's got backup from Kalas, however. Venenu still looking for his finger and finds it. iceicebaby gonna get erased. Turns out wasps are better than spiders after all.
Check your corners. And this is going to be a rough one for Kalas. Knocked up, slowed, and Scream will find the last hit as well. BigManTingz will get stung for his troubles. But check your corners, man. Just Ice walks in a lane and gets. Oh.
Look, I'm not saying that iceicebaby should have been preemptively looking around the corner to expect the stinger there, but maybe pathing into mid lane, period, was probably against his better judgment there.
I don't know. I think if he goes south, he still dies. There's.
If he just ran down the right side mid Harpy wall, he's fine.
You think so?
He's perfectly fine.
Maybe. All right, I'll give it to you.
He gets cut off by Venenu.
Ward vision there from Splyce. Yeah, I guess you're right. Baskin has now played the Vamana twice in a row. What is it about Vamana that's so attractive? Obviously, if there's a lot of physical damage.
It's the interrupt and the knockups
Yep.
that Baskin's really valuing here. On top of the slows, he's been utilizing that umbrella toss out pretty well. At least in game one, he got a lot of utility out of it. All that thought though, because College trying to find some taunts in on the Scream, but it's going to be the Kraken that gets Scream caught out first.
And Venenu finds the hit on the Kalis, assist from Aror and Scream, of course. But a big play from Aror there, just making sure to land the stun, keep his teammates both safe and sound from BigManTingz' follow-up, and find the damage on top of Kalis, punishing him for that dash taunt right there. Nice play from Splyce to bring it 4-1.
One problem that I am noticing that's starting to develop, though, is that it seems like Splyce always gets something for their moments of aggression, whether it's a buff or a kill or just preferable ward vision on the map farm. It just seems like eUnited, while they've had one solid pick response so far and have done decent handling the engagements against Splyce in mid, it just doesn't... It's not convincing.
I'll give you that. Not convinced. Benji. All that. Bastion just shrugs it off. Breastplate of Valor. Big physical damage reduction there. Easy peasy. No problemo. One of the... when was the last time this item was changed? One of the longest standing items, just... Mana, Fizz Prots, 20% CDR,
Perfectly
health.
balanced, as all things should be.
It's just a classic item that's rarely needed to change. Sometimes viewed as too weak in comparison to other items, but I don't know, man. 20 CDR is half of the cap.
If we're going to start talking items, I want to talk about CycloneSpin and emilitoo. Battle of the Warlock Staff. Almost feels like we're in 2017, but all that thought because Aror still trying to get frisky with BigManTingz here, but Tings wisely holding on to that Kraken deploy until he's certain that he's got the setup he needs.
Well, my whole thing that I've said on broadcast, you know, I've been quiet about it. I think Warlock Staff is a great item, but you know, 100 stacks. You need 60-something stacks for it to be mathematically viable compared to other items that you would purchase. It's a gazillion gold. But if you are stuck in this duo lane, the long lane, for 17 minutes like we see every game, do it, man. The downside to this item is how long it takes to both build and stack up. But if you're there by yourself, oh well.
And especially if you're CycloneSpin, he's already got a 21 stack lead over emilitoo.
Yep.
He decided to prioritize the CDR boots rush straight into the Warlocks, and it's benefited pretty well so far, but I can't help but feel for iceicebaby because since he opted for that Blink First Relic, Splyce have just been so aggressively attacking this Arachne, trying to force that ultimate.
Which is an interesting turn. Here comes Collins versus Scream, left side Arachne pushed out one more time. Normally you don't fight Arachne, you know? I go all the way back to...
Oh.
You thought Baskin?
I thought Baskin was gonna like try to full commit there for a second. You just see him charging in with the clear the path.
It's the zone. That's what he's here for. Kraken is used on Baskin instead of the Gold Fury. So Splyce snatch another objective away from the opposition. Big rotation from Benji as he's staring at Aror, and Aror will walk into emilitoo. Ice takes care of that one with a dot. Emel's kind of mad, I'm sure. But that's kill number 2 for the team. Most important.
Hey. A pick onto Aror for the Gold Fury. I don't think CycloneSpin or anybody else on Splyce is going to care too much about that one. Now it's Cyclone trying to do what he can to defend his T1 tower, but emilitoo might just have had the perfect window of opportunity here, and sure enough, iceicebaby giving his ADC just enough time to bring down that T1 tower, distracting CycloneSpin from the defense.
And don't forget, that's from those failed ganks that we saw in the early game from iceice going over to that left side and not getting the kill despite 3 separate times. That's where the other half of the tower damage came from.
Well, iceicebaby also pulled back from CycloneSpin right as the tower was sitting around that 10-15% HP threshold. And the problem there for Cyclone is if he pushes up to clear the wave and stop emilitoo from sieging the tower, he doesn't know if the spider's still hanging around or not, and he also doesn't know the cooldown timer of iceicebaby's relic. So iceicebaby, we can see clearly that it was up, but
Yep.
Cyclone doesn't know that. He just has to assume that it's up. So he also has to assume that he'll get ganked if he uses his cooldowns on the creep wave.
Very, very tight scenario there. CycloneSpin losing the tier 1 tower is not the end of the world. 500 gold, Gold Fury's down, and really you're worried more about mid lane pressure there than side lane. I mean, how much value is a tier 1 tower doing?
A ton, honestly. 'Cause
Really?
emilitoo now has the capability of rotating, and a Chronos that can join the engagements when he's prioritized a Pythagorum's piece in his 3rd item slot.
That's a big deal.
Could be all the extra little buff that BigManTingz needed to really prosper. And not only that, but CycloneSpin's also more vulnerable. He has to push out a little bit further. That gives more opportunity now for iceicebaby to possibly find further punish against this Zhong, and just having map pressure in general has got to be a better look for eUnited, so they can try to better utilize Colossus, Defender of Olympus, for gank opportunities also.
I love that you bring up the rotation ability. Yeah. Put that one in your dictionary. From emilitoo. Because not only does he have the Pythax piece, but BigManTingz has the Spear of the Magus, as he should, as a Poseidon. And so they're both going to synergize with each other, and that's going to be real nice, both kind of Voltroning when you see those rotations. So if Emil can rotate earlier than expected, that's going to be pretty impactful. You're absolutely right.
And if you also factor in one of emilitoo's old school specialties, he was the original king of split push once upon a time ago. And Chronos is certainly a god that can be a runaway factor if left alone for too long. So Splyce have to plan their engagements accordingly, because there is a chance that Emil chooses just not to rotate, period. And he just split pushes his brains out and takes a T2 tower. And if Splyce don't come up huge in the engagement with the other 4 members of eUnited, then they're going to end up falling behind in golden experience with push alone.
And that's totally fine with him if all things go in that direction. Aror hit by the Kraken and the follow-up damage, dashing away. Callus finds the reach. Beautiful play there from the Guardian. And that's going to be an injection. Splyce not willing to follow up there. Aror does not want to be there. That's a bad look for the support player. 0-3-2 here in game number 2. A little bit cleaner the first time around.
But if somebody's going to have all the death stacked onto them, I can assure you that Aurora wanted to be him. Baskin, on the other hand, not so much. Trying to go into the big baby core and buy himself a little bit of time, but it's just too much damage from eUnited. All 5 members grouped up on this solo side of the map because they want the Pyromets or possibly even just Fire Giant outright.
Let's go. That's what Chronos is saying right now, man. You got the combination of the Mage Rage with those 2 passive items that are going to auras or amplify the rest of the mages. Fire Giant down to 10%. There are some members in red here, and Splyce will do it. They take the Fire Giant, but Emil takes Scream. Benji lined up to take Venenu, and he will. Aror sent back home as well. Double kill for emilitoo. The man with 2 world championships has 2 kills right here. And CycloneSpin trying what he can, but he's not a hunter. Only half of the tower goes down. Crazy play by eUnited, and Splyce snatch the momentum.
Splyce stopped the momentum is probably a better way to put it. I don't think that they could necessarily snatch it. eUnited still fell a little bit too far out in front for Splyce to want to fight just yet, but then again, Cyclone wasn't there at the Fire Giant. And without Cyclone, that's a pretty big team fighting ultimate to miss out on an engagement. But eUnited probably kicking themselves for that Fire Giant loss right now. The fact that it was, I couldn't tell if it was Scream or, it had to have been Scream that stole it. I don't think that it was Aror. I don't think Aror would have had the damage for that, but either way, the fact that Scream manages to get in there, period, for that long, eUnited, I think that they could have very easily stopped trying to 50-50 the FG and just look to get the picks instead. You don't have to get Fire Giant at 15 minutes.
Exactly. That's really what I was looking for. I thought it was going to be the all-out peel and fight. Splyce looking for the fight right now as Baskin in the ultimate. Frenzy has popped, so Splyce will look more for the retreat than the advance. emilitoo, though, caught behind enemy lines. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 members of Splyce. And a zoning Kraken will do. Scream by himself here in the enemy locker room pretty much, as Benji doing the same. Benji a little bit tankier. might be safer doing this one. Baskin trying to provide some damage, but not enough. Aror getting jumped on, and that be that. emilitoo finds another one. 3 kills. The carry on eUnited without a death so far.
Cyclone has just been so patient, though, holding on to that Zhong ult, not quite ready to unleash the ghost just yet. And this is part of the reason why. Auror's the one who dies, but it's Splyce who's healthy enough to stick around and take the objective after the fact. Primal Fury gonna help out Splyce even further on those future Fire Giant sieges or steals.
Or steals, you're absolutely right. I really thought eUnited was gonna peel there. They didn't. Baskin taunted and just jumped on. And eUnited will get the tier 1 tower in the mid lane. We see that frequently. One team gets gold, the other team gets the mid lane tower. eUnited, a very slight gold lead, maybe 500 wave to wave. Not anything to hang a hat on here, Taco, but something eUnited feel confident enough to walk into the jungle with.
This has been a very back and forth match, though, in terms of map wins. The second that it looks like Splyce are just about to pull a 1-up over eUnited managed to find the response via kills and tower sieges. And that is the primary reason why eUnited has still been able to maintain just the slightest gold lead, but the experience gap is what I wanted to know between BigManTingz and Venenu. Poseidon now kind of hitting that mid-game stride, while Venenu's kind of struggled a little bit more so in this game because either Aror or Baskin, one of them has been dead right before the fight really breaks out, and it's been tough for Splyce, I think, to figure out where they want to look for counter initiation due to the fact that they're constantly missing one frontline member.
And you know, when you talk about CycloneSpin, that tanky Zhong, even with the Warlocks, or especially with the Warlock staff, I should say, you know, that's not a front line. Can we say a middle line?
Somewhere in between.
Because the goal there is to be in the middle of the team fight, and of course he is going to be tankier than you might expect. And that's the biggest part. When we talked about that Fire Giant mishap from eUnited and Splyce over there, you mentioned that Cyclone wasn't there. When you're missing your hunt, you see that a lot, right? Carry, split pushing, 4-man fight someplace else, and that's all well and good. You think about what would happen if the hunter was there. Well, CycloneSpin as a Zhong, that is a presence. That's a team fight strategy to some squads. And so with that in mind, you know, I think eUnited have been able to find these minor wins here and there. But when CycloneSpin really joins up, I think it's going to be kind of devastating.
A little bit forced here from eUnited as Collis and iceicebaby going super deep on Splyce's T2 tower, looking for a pick against Venenu. Will force out the Muzen Cobb's beads and Aegis, so this is actually pretty important now that the Fire Giant is about to respawn, because Venenu can't afford to be out in front near that FG pit, or else eUnited are just going to look to gobble him up.
Just chow. And iceicebaby, this is kind of an interesting build here. You've got the Golden Blade to clear. You kind of need that pretty much. But right into the chins. So no penetration, just straight chins, and now some defense.
It's bold, but I can see where it works against killing Aror over and over again, which has kind of been the theme here for eUnited.
So I like the idea. I question lack of penetration, and we'll see how this one works out. But Arachne's passive is baby chins, and then you actually get real chin side. Your carry on Splyce is going to be extra tanky anyway, extra HP by way of some of the itemization, and he's Zhong. Baskin is problematic as well, and then you said, you know, Aror, Scream has a winged blade and can build into a tankier option. iceicebaby, instead of being the early game don't fight the bug, is going to be kind of this mid to late game tank shredder with this build. So I like the Urchin, but I need penetration.
Curious to see how this Urchin plays out, though, for iceicebaby. If he's able to get at least 3 stacks into it prior to the next big teamfight engagement, I'm mostly looking to him to accomplish those stacks from picks alone, because that's one thing that eUnited have certainly opened up for themselves in Game 2 here. It definitely feels like they're actually closing out on kill opportunities in comparison to Game 1, where they definitely struggled in just trying to find a kill, period.
Auror's going to be pincered here. Ulted by Benji. Collis and the Spider are underneath. There's the taunt, but everybody's waiting for that Kraken. And the Whirlpool is enough. The threat of activation is too much for eUnited to handle, and they will slink back into the jungle.
Baskin already had to use his teleport. Granted, it's not an upgraded teleport, so it'll be on cooldown for quite some time, but it's just the fact that emilitoo knows if he wants to revisit Split Push, it's going to have to take place after this. Cracking coming out of BigManTingz onto Venenu.
And there's Scream looking for damage out of Benji, but just looking. Won't be finding. 2,000 gold lead here for eUnited as they soft push the tier 2 tower.
But look at Venenu's actives. He was trying so hard to not get involved for as long as possible. Now Aror gonna get caught out as a secondary casualty of Warrior and Splyce. They're just dropping like flies one by one, trying to poke their heads into the jungle to figure out where exactly eUnited are grouped up at. But the second that you go a little bit too far in, you're just stuck without a lifeline. And now Scream on the run for his life.
Someone buy a revealing ritual. 11-4, and eUnited are taking their 7-kill lead to the bank. Watch out, here comes Splyce again. They stole the first Fire Giant. CycloneSpin, ulting and trying to deter the enemy. Splyce needs to drop, and they will, but here's the team fight. BigManTingz getting walked at by Baskin, has access to the abilities one more time. The sneeze is strong. Kalos is here trying to back, but all while Baskin is doing this, the rest of the team is up top getting stomped by eUnited. Scream with a hair of HP. Baskin goes down on screen, and eUnited, they're able to deter the fight, but Splyce, I'm checked. I thought Splyce had stopped the Fire Giant attempt, but eUnited comfortable as anything, as Kalos has the ult.
It's not a guarantee though. Aror gonna blink past Benji, but Benji still trying to prevent Venenu from coming into the Fire Giant pit. Aror looking to focus on iceicebaby. He's gonna force another reset onto this Fire Giant. And keep in mind, Scream's about to rejoin the engagement.
Scream from the left side, looking for it. Aror down 40%, but emilitoo even lower. Aegis is gone, and so is the carry. Venenu, kill number 4. And Benji on the run, Scream chasing him. Kalos will taunt him away. Venenu finds a slow, and Benji spinning to avoid everybody. Scream pinned. Venenu, kill number 5. Splyce again. Stop the momentum of eUnited.
They are just not letting eUnited have anything for free. eUnited has had to work for every single kill and for every single objective opportunity, as long as Splyce is determined that they still want to participate. And hey, I can't blame them. It looks hopeless when you see 2 members from eUnited trying to charge into 4, or excuse me, 2 from Splyce charging into 4 from eUnited. You think there's no possible way they stop a Fire Giant in action, but that FG was just chunking into iceicebaby's health, the ring of fire surrounding it also, and now Splyce might get the Fire Giant themselves again!
And it's all them this time. eUnited didn't even start it. They got 100-0. iceicebaby exits by way of the ultimate on the left-hand side, and now you've got Scream trying to deal with Kalos and BigManTingz. Beautiful slow from Venenu will let the rest of the team catch up. Tower being tanked correctly, and the kill from Scream is good. Top shelf, you know, where mommy keeps the peanut butter.
It's just too much slow spam from Splyce, whether it's bees and honey, or Aror, Cyclone, Baskin. Someone from eUnited is being slowed down in the process, and not a single Wingblade in response. And I'm honestly surprised that iceicebaby, Kalos, neither of them has elected for this Wingblade option just yet, and when 4 out of 5 members from Splyce can easily toggle it, kind of surprising.
Baskin is in trouble here, and this is that chin side build, but he's not in as much trouble because he's got the homies. Nice pin over the wall. Cyclone gets ice for his trouble. Emil gonna be stunned out if Aror catches up. There's the cripple. There's the taunt. Surrounded and astounded. That's what we are. Because Bastion just coming right on back. This looked like a poor game for Baskin. He was picked off multiple times. He tried to do what he did in game 1, and then turns around. 2-3-2. Turns around. Splyce up 8,000 gold. Turns around. The black and yellow are down in kills, but they're also down to frag. They are going to the top.
Well, at this rate, eUnited definitely has their MSI tournament series on the line. Because Splyce, they want this left side Phoenix, and with only 3 members of eUnited here to play defense, Baskin's going to be one of the first ones in. Scream, though, actually tanking the aggro of the Phoenix, but it doesn't even matter. eUnited, they're just going to let this one go.
Easy. Left side bird goes down. Scream, he's got a rune forged hammer. That's pretty much the only tank item he's got. Scream has a winged blade. There's so many slows on Splyce, they're afraid of their own slows, and Scream grabs the winged blade. Joking, of course. You got to watch out for Ice and Big Man, but I'm with you, Taco. Winged blade is, I understand it doesn't have every stat like it used to, but it's still damn good.
It has the stats that eUnited needs, and that's just the removal of that slow, so they can actually create some distance. All of these disengages have, it's not that they haven't been clean from United, but
it's big.
Scream getting picked here off of BigManTingz' Kraken means that the mid Phoenix is susceptible to the rest of Splyce, and they're just going to collapse.
Oh my goodness, I thought that was big for eUnited, but it just opened the door. Scream sacrifices himself at the altar of the gods, and Splyce are gifted a Phoenix. Left side, the Winions are walking in and dealing damage to the Titan. This team fight is huge for eUnited.
But it's Baskin who's leading the charge so far. iceicebaby tried to work down Venenu in the backside, but he's going to get spotted out and ripped apart. Now all of Splyce looking to continue giving chase. Baskin's going to catch up, no problem.
80% of the Titans so far. Meanwhile, team fight in the middle lane under duress. Splyce have the upper hand. Benji half HP. Kalas half HP. The Titan half HP. 25% to go, and that's it. We'll see you later. The world champions move on in the middle of the mid-season invitational.
A convincing set win as well for Splyce. Game 2 started off looking right for eUnited, but Splyce, they did the same thing to us even. They had us all looking one direction and then completely pulled out the full stops from the other side. And eUnited, I mean, I'm sure their heads still have to be spinning. That aggression from Splyce was just all over the place.
It really was. I don't think the game was decided by that first Fire Giant steal, but that was a really big deal. Splyce were able to pick up the momentum and able to go ahead and take care of business just really, really strongly.
All Splyce had to do was just stop eUnited from winning. And I know that sounds, you know, that's a granted. Come on, Taka. Everybody says that all the time. But quite literally, if eUnited gets that Fire Giant, they're able to maintain their snowball potential and could have possibly even looked to have ended that game a lot sooner. Instead, Splyce just not willing to budge.
Not at all. This is a team that it's real interesting watching them come through, man. They win the end of last season, and they're just continuing after some tweaks right now. We'll ask the desk how they feel.
Well, game 2 definitely a lot better than game 1 from eUnited's point of view. The early game was all about eUnited there. The problem was that Splyce battled back into it, Tori. Where did it go wrong?
I think that CycloneSpin's rotations eventually made an impact alongside Auror's control with that Artio. It all came down to the Fire Giants eventually, which we'll get to in a little bit.
And those Fire Giants as well definitely made an impact. But eUnited got off to an early lead. They seemed to be pretty potent in a lot of the lanes. A lot of focus on Baskin, making sure he was out of the fray for a while. And at first I was like, well, you know, Benji on the King Arthur, he didn't die till very late on in this game. And then also Kalas having a great time on this Athena.
United definitely did a better job this time around with emilitoo's performance on the Chronos. It definitely justified the first pick. A lot of player damage coming out of him. The taunts from Kalas setting up Big Man and also iceicebaby in the early to mid game wasn't enough because after that 5-man rotation to kill Baskin on the right side of the map, United was confident enough to start that very first Fire Giant where things started to go downhill. Aror showed up here at the very last second with the blink and steals it with the bear swipes.
Oh, it wasn't Aror that stole
Scream was there, but there comes Aror.
Look at the hero they needed, not the one eUnited deserved. And that kind of evened things up momentarily. eUnited did win the fight off that, Toli.
That's right.
But then again, the second Fire Giant, this one, is where eUnited seem to get a bit discombobulated.
And if we play it from here, just look at Aror yet again. United are having flashback because Aror is going to make his statement right over here on the rotation. Zoning away is going to be Benji, but Aurora is already distracting everyone else from paying attention. And now, if we slow it down here a little bit, look at the attention of every member coming through. They're all looking this way. And you know who they're not paying attention to?
Scream.
Is Scream right there, flanking on the backhand side. And if we play at a normal speed from here, we're just going to see the flank, the double taunt, the setup. Eventually, the chase down happens onto Benji for the secondary kill, and this is the point where Splyce get back into the game.
tell you, if only eUnited had those arrows available to them in the game, if only they would have looked at the arrows, they would have been okay. eUnited then fall down 2-0 to Splyce, who advanced to face off Armada in the semi-final. Did that go as predictably as you may have expected with this? Because I thought this would be a little bit closer than it looked overall.
I thought it would have been a little bit closer. Not a 2-0 in 26.5 minutes and then 29 minutes in game number 2. But at the end of the day, Splyce just seemed like a totally different team from what they started off with Divios and with Mosswall and Sino. The synergy that they have now with Baskin, Screammmmm, and Venenu is certainly there.
Well, that definitely was a nice little toss-up between the two to find out exactly who would advance on, because eUnited and Splyce both with roster changes this year, and now they've booked their place into the semi-final to face off against Armada tomorrow. Meanwhile, though, we've still got 2 quarter-final matches to play through today. The second SML team available on display today is Simplicity, and they're going to have to take on the boys of Dignitas. So we're going to see another SML team advance, you reckon?
That would be something really spicy, and I'm all about that if that happens.
Well, now Splyce is standing by with an interview to talk about how they won that set.
I rip off my Splyce jerseys or Armada jerseys.
Splyce, talk about ripping off their sweatshirts. You should after that game. Baskin and Aror here representing Splyce. Talk me through game number 2, because that seemed to be a little bit rough. What happened there in the early stages?
Well, early on it was fine actually. They got more farm than us. They were doing a better job farming, but we were winning the fights early on. Like Athena dashed in mid a couple times. We were able to kill her. We traded me out one time, so it was like 4-1. But then they took up. I feel like it was more like in that like mid game transition is when they started like getting a lead and picking us off. They just grouped up faster than us, and they just abused their team comp with Athena taunts.
Well, moving forward for you guys, after beating United here today, what are some of your thoughts about facing off against Armada next?
Meerkat specifically?
Yeah, we were debating about whether we should show up tomorrow or just give them the win. I don't know. It's definitely going to be a rough set for us, but hopefully we can pull it out.
It's actually crazy that they won
Yeah,
today.
it's actually so crazy.
Yeah, you got to give them a lot of props for sure. Like,
yeah.
Because Rival definitely showed up wanting to win because it's like an important event. It's the second most important event of the entire year, so they're not going to come troll. So you got to give them a lot of credit. Mask was going crazy. It was fun to watch. So
yeah, I guess it's safe to say now because Rival's knocked out. But if I were like betting on this tournament, I would say Rival was going to win like a week before because they were looking so good.
Yeah, that's what everybody was saying. That like I was asking people or just getting people's opinions. Everybody was like, Rivals just seems like the best team, and I thought they were good too. But no team's beatable here, or unbeatable here. No team's beatable. No team's beatable.
No one wins.
Not a single team can be beaten. Everybody's gonna draw every single game. But no, I meant unbeatable. But yeah.
That's not the attitude we're used to from Aror. Which is my last question here. You know, you guys win the World Championship. You come into the season kind of sluggish, honestly. Make some changes. Obviously, Baskin's here temporarily, but there seems to be more wind in your sails, just even on the face of you guys. What's the thought process here for Splyce right now?
Yeah, the one thing I want to say, it doesn't pertain to the question, I guess, but I want to give a lot of credit to Cyclone and Kumbhakarna for not giving up and continuing to try their best and continuing to play and help the team at the highest level they can possibly help the team at. Cyclone's been playing great this entire split. He's looked amazing. Kabam's been a great help as well, as usual. And it seems like the roster changes didn't really get them down, and they were able to work through it. I'm really happy that they stayed on, and we kept pushing through all the hard times.
Awesome. Well, looks like good times ahead. Splyce, you're continuing to push this one. Congratulations on the win. Up next, some more SML versus SPL action. We'll be right back after this.